From our studios on Florida's Gulf Coast, this is Women of Grace Live. Join us today as we discuss issues important to your life and faith. Spiritual insight, compelling discussion, practical wisdom. Women of Grace for such a time as this. Now, here's Elena Rodriguez in for Jonette Bankovic.
A very warm welcome to you and everyone listening across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio platform. This is Elena Rodriguez sitting in today for Jonette Bankovic. Jonette Bankovic is traveling today. She is boarding a plane right now. She's going to be in the air, not on the air, because she is coming to EWTN to celebrate with all of us our big family celebration this weekend. If you are planning to come, we welcome you already. Some of our pilgrims are already here, so we are very delighted. This is a big day for EWTN as we gear up for the family celebration this weekend in Birmingham. And if you are in the Birmingham area, in the vicinity of Birmingham, within a driving distance, or even if you have some relatives in Birmingham, why not pack up the car and the family and come visit us? The EWTN family celebration is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and it is free access, free ticket. You have the ticket in your pocket already, so you can come and celebrate with us. It's in downtown area in the BJCC. It's called the Birmingham Jefferson Convention Complex. And we will be there with all the EWTN personalities. There will be the Kids Corner. Radio is going to have a booth there. And we'll hear wonderful talks. The MFEA, our dear friars, are going to be there. It's going to be really a big family reunion. And we are delighted to be celebrating Mother Angelica on this very special family celebration. We're dedicating it to the life and legacy of Mother Mary Angelica. And today on this show, we want to also dedicate the show to our dear Mother Angelica. May she rest in peace. And we have our very special show guest today, who is Sue Brinkman, and she is joining us. She is our staff researcher and writer at EWTN and also at Women of Grace. Sue, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great today. Thank you.
Well, Sue, this is also a day of firsts because we are streaming a different way, this show on a different way on YouTube. So I have a camera in front of me, and it's I just want to say hi to everybody. And normally you would be seeing Jonette Bankovic from her home studio. Today, as she is traveling, you're seeing me, so I apologize for that. But we have a lot of good news stories to share with you today, and one of them is related to Mother Angelica. The small portion of the road right across from the EWTN headquarters in Birmingham in Irondale, Alabama, is going to be named and dedicated today. It's going to be named as Mother Angelica Way. And we are delighted. This is happening along with a big family celebration this weekend, and it is in honor of Mother Mary Angelica of the Annunciation. So we are really celebrating today here at EWTN, and we're actually going to have our very own Jack Williams tune in from the site of that dedication of that sign that's on the edge of the road right across our EWTN campus here, where the big dedication ceremony is going to be happening. And it is just about started about 2 minutes ago, and Jack Williams will have more right from the side of the celebration in just a few minutes. But Sue, we also want to take an opportunity to have you here on the show to share about the news stories that are making the headlines and that you have posted on your Women of Grace blog. It's womenofgrace.com, and then you go to the breaking news blog, which Sue Brinkman has prepared and posts every day and refreshes every day. So it's a good way to stay in tune what's happening during the course of the week, during the course of the year, and to be able to defend our faith. It's a very good resource. And today we're going to be talking about some of those news stories with Sue Brinkman, who has reported on them. We want to open up our lines. Our brave call screener, Michael McCall, is ready to take your calls at 1-800-585-9396. And that number again is 1-800-585-9396 to talk to Sue Brinkman about the news stories that she will be sharing in just a moment here. We will be talking about some news stories that are going to be very surprising to you. Maybe you haven't heard about this yet. Sue does a great job about reporting on all those stories that you might not have seen around, that are not are not common around there, but they're happening, and we need to be aware of them to be able to respond to them with prayer and to respond with them with knowledge as well, because information is power. So, Sue, we begin with a series of news stories that you have, and one of them really caught my eye because the title of it is Religious Freedom a License to Discriminate?
Unbelievable that this statement actually came from the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Martin Castro, the chairman of the commission, he claimed in this as a 306-page report, and is entitled "Peaceful Coexistence: Reconciling Non-Discrimination Principles with Civil Liberties." And he said that people of faith are using religious liberty as a way to strip certain members of the public of their civil rights. And he says in a statement, he says, the phrases religious liberty and religious freedom will stand for nothing except hypocrisy, so long as they remain code words for discrimination, intolerance, racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, Christian supremacy, or any form of intolerance. And he says that, liberty was never intended to give one religion dominion over other religions or a veto power over the civil rights and civil liberties of others. He says, but today, religion is being used as both a weapon and a shield by those seeking to deny others equality. And what he wants is for more restrictions and for a narrowing of laws such as the Religious Freedom Restoration Act that will tailor back and scale back religious exceptions in these laws. In other words, to force us to perform same-sex marriages and all this kind of stuff. This is what he's getting at. And, of course, he's come under tremendous fire. He's come under fire from within his own commission. One of the commissioners, Peter Kirsanow, he said that at first he thought he meant to identify religious, opprobrium religions in addition to Christianity, such as, jihadis or that sort of thing. But he says, as it happens, his venom was actually directed against American Christians. He was criticizing Christianity in this. And but probably, I think, one of the most brilliant pushbacks came from Archbishop Lurie of Baltimore, when he says that statements painting those who support religious freedom with the broad brush of bigotry are reckless and reveal a profound disregard for the religious foundations of his own work. He says, hey, remember, people of faith are the ones who are out there fighting for civil rights.
Exactly.
We're the ones, we're marching at the front of the parades here, and he points that out right away. And he says, even though the church's record isn't perfect, he says, the idea of equality, which the Civil Rights Commission chairman treats as a kind of talisman, is incomprehensible apart from the very faith that he seeks to cut off from mainstream society. The vast majority of those who speak up for religious liberty are merely asking for the freedom to serve others as our faith asks of us. It was a brilliant response to that, and it's got to send us all to our knees in prayer that we have the actual commissioner coming out with statements like this that were so anti-Christian, and as Lurie said, painted with such a broad brush. Everybody being called a bigot. Who doesn't go along with particular points of view on social issues, I just think is a very, very bad development and something that we need to pray about.
Yes. When you get into name-calling, it's a very dangerous territory because then that means you don't have enough arguments to sustain an intellectual or respectful conversation using smart arguments and using arguments that will make you and your opponent think about things in a reasonable way. That's when you don't have that, you recur to name calling. So
that's so true.
And any high school student can tell you that if they are in the debate team. That's a very basic principle of respectful dialogue. You don't go into name calling. You debate ideas and you keep it at that and keep it respectful. So I wonder if there are any listeners out there who are listening to our show today with Sue Brinkman, Women of Grace, who might have been the subject of name-calling. If you have had names called at you because you defend your faith, because you stand up for your faith, give us a call and bounce that off our guest today, Sue Brinkman, who is our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com. The number is 1-800-585 9396. I'll give you that number again to talk to Sue Brinkman today on Women of Grace. 1-800-585-9396. Sue has just reported on a story that she has available for you to read if you want more information on her breaking news blog, and that is available at womenofgrace.com. It's called Is Religious Freedom a License to Discriminate? There are other Christians also sustaining a very important battle for their rights and their firm stance, Sue, and I know you've reported on this. You have a story called These Catholic Schools Won't Be Bullied.
That's right. These are for the Diocese of Camden. They're really standing up and fighting for the faith out there in Camden. The very first headline that I'm reporting on here is in the wake of this controversy surrounding the decision of some NFL football players to refuse to stand for the national anthem. The Diocese of Camden has decided this kind of disrespectful behavior is not going to be tolerated in their schools. And, you know, the kids are watching this on television. They're watching this happening in NFL games, and they're mimicking it in their own schools now. So it's having a trickling down effect. And in the Diocese of Camden, if you try that, you're in trouble, because they sent a directive to all the high schools letting them know that any player or coach who does not demonstrate appropriate respect to the Star-Spangled Banner is subject to a 2-game suspension, and if the behavior continues, they're off the team.
It's very definite.
Very definite. There's just no question about it. And Mary Boyle, who is the superintendent of the Catholic high schools in that diocese, says our schools are founded on the teaching of respect and honor for God, country, and duly appointed authority. The best approach is helping our young people understand that blood was sacrificed so that we can all enjoy the gifts of our faith and our country.
Yes.
So they're taking a very, very tough stance with that, and they're letting their students know, don't even try it, or you could end up off the team. Another school, another Catholic high school in Camden, is also standing firm, even though they're being badgered now by the press. They're under fire for refusing to allow a student named Madeline Cantrombone, who transitioned from female to male during the summer, use the men's facilities at their school. The family came to the school and asked if her registration could be changed from female to male and that she could be allowed to wear a boy's uniform. And when the school refused, the parents decided to place her in another school. Of course, what the media is doing is spinning the story to make it sound as if the school rejected this student rather than tell the truth about it, because, of course, you know, the family's decision to place a child in another school, they don't want you to hear that part of it. They just want to make us look bad. And they also want to avoid the fact that most Americans are not in favor of forcing religious employers or institutions to violate their beliefs in order to accommodate the latest cultural fads. Most Americans are not, and that's repeatedly, that's the response from polling. They don't believe that. They believe if there's other options, you should just go and use the other options and not try to force faith-based organizations into caving on their belief systems. But they're very sympathetic when it comes to discrimination. So that's why the media always tries to spin it this way. And the diocese called them out on it and said, you know, that's not what happened here. What happened was that the family themselves made this decision. We had he said we sat down and we talked with them. And our mission, our principal mission, is to form students in the faith, and we'll always have to be true to that faith, even and indeed especially when those teachings are challenged by the secular world. And this is a statement by the diocese, and he said that the teachings of the Catholic Church and Pope Francis are that biological sex and gender can be distinguished but not separated. And he said the Diocese of Camden is fully in support of that school's decision. So if they want to start something, which they tried to do, one student started a petition drive on change.org, but he's got less than 2,000 signatures as of yesterday afternoon. But it's very, very refreshing, I think, to see these Catholic schools standing up for the values that make us, you know, really who we are. We're followers of Christ who taught that real love isn't about warm fuzzies.
Right.
It's about being willing to put our selfish desires to death in order to preserve the greater good. And it's all about the other. And that's really what we stand for, and I think that's something very proud. We should be proud to stand for, and I'm happy to be able to report on these two schools.
Yeah.
I just think they're doing a great job.
Yes, and we need to keep them in prayer because surely enough, I'm suspecting that they will suffer a lot of persecution, and there will be times of trial. And these schools should serve as example to many other schools around the country, which may be coming close to seeing this situation happen to them on their own territory, in their own areas. And this is a good example to follow. We need to keep these schools in Camden, New Jersey, in our prayers for sure. If you are listening to Women of Grace right now, and you're listening to our guest, Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com, you have concerns about what is going on in Catholic schools in your area, call us in and bounce that off Sue Brinkman. The number is 1-800-585-9396. It's a toll-free number, 1-800-585-9396. And stay tuned and stay informed. Our program today with Sue Brinkman is precisely geared to that objective, to keep us in mind of what is happening in and around our world, and also how to react to it and how to be properly informed. Some of the things that are going on might be covered in a very different way in some secular media outlets, but you can always tune in to EWTN and to Women of Grace to get that clarified and directly from the source. Sue Brinkman has many stories that are very interesting on her breaking news blog, and that is found at womenofgrace.com. One of these other stories that really caught my eye, Sue, is one that it's titled, it's a study that proves that motherless babies could soon be possible. And a lot of questions pop up when you read this headline.
Oh, it's a shocker. This is a shocker, but this is where they're headed. They're all bragging about these scientists, or this is the University of Bath where the study originated. That's in England. They were bragging about this study. They say it rewrites 200 years of biology and paves the way for a variety of techniques to produce children that don't necessarily involve a man and a woman.
Oh.
And what they have found out is, what we believe and what we know to be true is that a female egg sparks certain changes in a sperm that's required to make a baby. And because an egg forms over a special kind of cell division in which just half the number of chromosomes are carried over, this in turn turns into an embryo where you have a full genetic quota, half from the mother and half from the father.
Oh.
But now scientists have found that embryos can be created from any cell which carries all of their chromosomes, which means that in theory, any cell in the human body could be fertilized by a sperm. And all that has to happen is that you have to back out, as long as half the chromosomes are removed first, to allow them to fuse with the sperm's chromosomes, you have an embryo. And believe it or not, they have been able to produce mice, several generations of mice, that were healthy enough to reproduce their own little pups. And although they started this experiment with an egg cell, they did start with an egg cell for the experiment, they don't believe that it's required to spark the same development. And their next step is now going to be to use something, say, like a skin cell, and produce embryos from that. And they're saying, there's all kinds of utilities for this great science and this great new capabilities, and one of them is to allow two gay men to produce a child that's born with DNA from both parents. Or a single man could be able to fertilize his own cells to produce offspring that contain genes from himself and his parents. Or more realistic, the technique would be it would allow women whose fertility has been wiped out, say, by cancer drugs or radiotherapy, to have their own children. Women would also be able to have children later in life through that method, and they're also saying that it could be used in the preservation of endangered species. So they have their reasons for why this would be such a great thing to do. But of course, it's not nature. This is not Mother Nature at all. This is now fooling around with things in a laboratory and creating life in a laboratory. And what it does is it denies a child and that offspring the right to have a fully human origin from a mother and a father. And this is what our church teaches.
Yes. Yeah, because it's not just producing a child like you produce an object and just, package an object and sell it and send it out there into society. It's a human being who needs raising properly in family values with mom and dad. and
Exactly.
and hopefully siblings, but mom and dad for sure to raise that child, not just producing mass producing a product like sausages. So that is something very important to keep in mind here. And we're so grateful that you have been reporting on this, Sue, and we'll look forward to more reports in this area. Your reports is always available on womenofgrace.com, your breaking news blog. You are listening to EWTN Radio's Women of Grace here, coming to you live, and very soon we'll have more reports from the field where the naming and dedication of the Mother Angelica Way is going underway, and we'll have live reports from the site. We continue to talk about the news stories of the week here on Women of Grace, and you are listening to EWTN Radio. Stay tuned.
The Christian life on earth is a warfare. As baptized Christians, we are called to be soldiers of Christ, warriors in the kingdom family of God. I'm Thomas K. Sullivan, author of the book Called to Knighthood and designer of the Warrior's Rosary. St. Padre Pio said, "The rosary is the weapon for these times." Manufactured by premier Italian rosary maker Gorelli in Italy, this one-of-a-kind designed Warrior's Rosary brings together the elements of military combat and spiritual warfare. Each piece is custom designed to embody the reality of a spiritual warrior in the kingdom of God that every baptized Christian is called to be. This rosary features a warrior saint from different parts of the world on each of its Our Father medals. Let us ask in faith for the strength, the grace, the wisdom to engage in this warfare with the rosary. Get yours today at EWTNRC.com.
Now is the time to make your plans for the 2016 EWTN Family Celebration, September 17th and 18th in Birmingham, Alabama. And best of all, it's free. For more information, go to EWTN.com/family celebration.
This is Janet Benkovic, host of Women of Grace.
Hello, this is Cardinal Donald Wuerl of the Archdiocese of Washington.
This is Gloria Purvis, host of Morning Glory. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Welcome back to Women of Grace here on EWTN Radio. Today, Elena Rodriguez, I'm sitting in for Janet Benkovic, who's traveling to EWTN for the big family celebration this weekend going on at the BJCC in downtown Birmingham. You are welcome to come. It's free, and it's free. Did I mention it was free? So you can come with your family. There's a spot for the kids, a spot for the adults, a spot for the teens, and very, very importantly, a spot for your soul. Don't miss out. Big EWTN family celebration going on in Birmingham, Alabama this weekend. And we are dedicating that celebration to our very dear Mother Angelica, to the life and legacy of our dear foundress, Mother Angelica of the Annunciation. Today on Women of Grace, we are receiving your phone calls with our guest, Sue Brinkman, who is our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com. And she is sharing with us the news stories of the week. And we want to make sure that you are aware of everything that is going on so that you can defend your faith. If you have any concerns, any questions about the stories that we are sharing with you, we'd like to welcome your phone calls. And the number is 1-800-585-9396. That number again is 1-800-585-9396. Say it real slow so that you can take note. And some of you I know the number by heart. So you are welcome to call us in and share this hour. We also have another way in which you can get in touch with us and send us a question. And that is our texting. So you can text in your question. What you have to do is you have to dial 55000. That's where you're going to send your text, 55000. And then you send the word or the letters EWTN. So send EWTN, the letters EWTN to 55000. And then follow the instructions. You'll get a text message back. And then you'll be registered for the service. And then the next thing you'll do is you can send in your name and the question. So make sure you tell us your name so that we can address you by name. And what is your question? Please keep it very brief, though. It is a text, so just a one-sentence question will do. And you can communicate with us during our live shows in that way as well. We have Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist here at womenofgrace.com. And one of the stories that you have on the breaking news blog here, Sue, is the Catholics are for choice ad campaign. So Catholics for Choice, right then and there, my eyebrows are raised. Tell us about this.
Catholics for Choice, yes. This is a dissident group. They're not Catholic by any stretch of the imagination. They put out this huge ad campaign. This must have cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. In major newspapers across the country, multiple cities, they put these big ads, full-page ads in there, and they're calling for taxpayer funding of abortion in the name of the Catholic faith, and saying that abortion is in good faith, and that and they're featuring women of different ages and walks of life. One of them is a Catholic grandmother who's a former state legislator who says, "Oh, I know firsthand that today's elected officials need to hear your voice, so they do the right thing, ensuring that women who are not well off are not financially burdened by the choices they make." In other words, their babies. That's their financial burden. Below her statement, then, there's this red banner proclaiming, "Public funding for abortion is a Catholic social justice value." But what? Since when is that? And then they put their name, Catholics for Choice, across the bottom. Well, of course, the church has just resoundingly condemned this ad campaign. Cardinal Dolan of New York, he's the chairman of the USCCB's Committee on Pro-Life Activities. First of all, he says the use of the name Catholic is not to be used as a platform to promote the taking of innocent human life. That's offensive, not only to Catholics, but to all who expect honesty and forthrightness in public discourse. So he said, hey, CFC, Catholics for Choice, is not associated with the Catholic Church in any way. It has no membership and clearly does not speak for the faithful. It's funded by powerful private foundations to promote abortion as a method of population control. And he also goes on to say that the CFC ad pits the needs of pregnant women against those of their unborn children. This is a false choice. Catholics and all people of goodwill are called to love them both. And that is true, not one or the other, and putting one above the other. But we know that it's an epic fail, and this was thanks to the work of Bill Donahue of the Catholic League. Actually, he called it a monumental failure, and he knows that because 2 days after this print advertising blitz in all these newspapers, it was cited in less than a half dozen papers. And he said, and even that's an exaggeration. The only place it got any attention is in the letter section. And more bad news for the CFC, the letters to the editor were uniformly critical of the ad. So, most important, he said, there's not been a single news story about its bigoted campaign in any newspaper in the nation. And he says, that shouldn't surprise anyone because the blitz itself was ill-founded, mostly because it ignores the fact that most Americans don't want to pay for abortions, whether they're Catholic or not. Nor do American Catholics believe that killing the unborn is a Catholic social justice issue. Nobody believes that.
Why would somebody believe that's a Catholic social justice issue?
I have no idea, but these people do, obviously. And they published a bunch of very flashy, very expensive ads, and they got little or nothing for it except for, I would say, the condemnation that they deserve. That's all that they really garnered from that. So they spent a lot of money, and I don't think they really impressed anybody. Not even the secular media picked up on it to say, oh, look what they're saying, these Catholics. They usually like to do that, but they even ignored it. So I guess that they're sort of wondering, well, maybe we got to get back to the drawing board if we want to try to get our dissident message across to people because nobody's listening to us. That's just a shame. It's just a shame that they put that in their big ads, and they're very glossy and pretty. They're nicely done. They're very nicely done.
Sure, yeah.
And but unfortunately, their message does not seem to have been to have resonated with the American Catholic public. So we can thank God for that.
Yes, and it is very important to keep things straight and to be able to identify what is and what isn't. We get so many messages nowadays with social media, and they can be confusing. And when we hear more than one person going in one direction, we think, well, then that's where probably I should go. But not necessarily. And that's why we have Sue Brinkman here today on Women of Grace here across the EWTN platform across the United States and internationally. The number to call is 1-800-585-9396. That number again is 1-800-585-9396. When we come back, we'll have a live report with Jack Williams on location from the place where the city of Irondale, Alabama is dedicating the Mother Angelica Way. This is right across our EWTN campus. We'll have a special report on that. It's a big feast and big celebration here. EWTN celebrating its EWTN Family Celebration Weekend. Stay tuned for more. You're listening to Women of Grace on EWTN Radio.
Who brings you the side of the story you won't hear anywhere else? Year after year, it's the National Catholic Register. And here on EWTN Radio, you can get it straight from the news professionals on Register Radio. Every week, you'll hear from the Register's top reporters, bloggers, and experts, as well as in-depth interviews with the newsmakers themselves. Please join us this weekend for Register Radio, Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, only on EWTN Radio.
Hello, friends. If there was a program that could help your daughter, granddaughter, niece, or student to come to realize the gift of her femininity and the beautiful reality of who she is in the eyes of God, would you be interested in having her participate? Would you be interested in helping her and other young women to participate in it? I hope the answer is yes, because that program is now available for young women. Women of Grace is delighted to launch our newest Women of Grace study program, Young Women of Grace, Embrace Your Femininity. This beautiful study for girls ages 12 through 17 teaches young women what it means to be a daughter of God, to discern their purpose and mission in the world, and to find true fulfillment without losing their souls. Young Women of Grace presents vital Catholic teaching in a colorful magazine-style workbook that is packed with fun facts, testimonials, and stories of the saints and other Catholic role models. Transform the life of that special young woman and order a copy today. Visit womenofgrace.com or call 800-558-5452. That's womenofgrace.com.
We are a young and diverse generation, helping those in need and promoting human rights. We care for the environment. We embrace authentic witnesses and dream of a better world. Our passion comes from God, who loves us even when we fall and cheers on our victories. If you sometimes wonder, is there something more? Then come and see at CatholicsComeHome.com.
You're listening to EWTN Radio's Women of Grace here. Coming to you live this hour, Elena Rodriguez sitting in for Johnette Benkovic with our guest Sue Brinkman, our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com. We welcome your comments and questions about the stories that Sue Brinkman is sharing through our very special phone line. It's a toll-free phone line, 1-800-585-9396. And Sue, as we have been announcing, we have a very special report on the field with Jack Williams, who is at the site where the city of Irondale is dedicating the Mother Angelica Way. This is right across from our EWTN campus. Jack Williams, you have the breaking news.
The breaking news, Elena, we've just finished the ceremony here
Wow.
where the city of Irondale has indeed named a section of Old Leeds Road Mother Angelica Way in honor of Mother Angelica. Sister Mark Mary Christina from the Franciscan Missionaries of the Eternal Word started the festivities with a short prayer, and some dignitaries from the city of Irondale spoke, and they talked about their gratitude to Mother Angelica, among other things, for not changing the address of EWTN to Birmingham, which a lot of people do if they're in a large metropolitan area. They'll just use the name of the large metropolitan city, which most people do, especially if they're running a business. But Mother Angelica always kept Irondale in the address of EWTN, as many of our listeners will be aware, as they've sent their donations in over the years to Old Leeds Road in Irondale, Alabama. And we also heard from a young lady whose family home is directly across the street from the monastery. They moved here in 1974 after their mother had passed away due to cancer. It was her father and 4 small girls, and they moved in here. They lost their father in a tragic train accident not long after they had moved here, and it left the 4 girls and their family to fend for themselves. She talked about the relationship that she had forged with Mother Angelica over the years and the graces that she'd felt from Mother Angelica. And Mother was actually the first person outside the family that came to greet them upon the news of her father's passing. And she had some very poignant and touching words to say about Mother Angelica. And then everyone moved to the sign itself, which reads Mother Angelica Way, in memory of Mother Mary Angelica, PCPA, 1923 to 2016, foundress of EWTN, the Global Catholic Network. We heard some beautiful words from CEO and Chairman of the Board, Michael Warsaw of EWTN, and it was a beautiful ceremony. Everybody's kind of mulling around the sign now, taking photographs, heading over to EWTN. There'll be a little bit of reception later, and this all leads up, of course, Elena, to the big family celebration this weekend, tomorrow and Sunday, right here at in Birmingham at the Birmingham Jefferson Convention Complex. And for more information on the celebration, anybody can log on to EWTN.com/family celebration.
That's a very complete report. Jack Williams from the field. Jack, I do have one question before you step away. Have you taken a selfie of yourself next to the sign?
I have not. I've resisted the temptation.
Selfies are good once in a while. It's a historic occasion. I envy you, Jack. I wish I were there, but I'm delighted to be in Radio Studio 1 listening to your report along with our very own Sue Brinkman and our listeners across and around the world. We share in your joy. We can hear that joy in your voice. It is wonderful. And we continue to celebrate Mother Angelica in this and many other great ways. Jack Williams, thank you so much for reporting on the field.
My pleasure.
God bless you, Jack Williams, and everybody participating in that very special ceremony dedicating the portion of road across from the EWTN campus, naming it the Mother Angelica Way. Sue Brinkman, I know that, as I have, you have been incredibly and tremendously inspired by the work and legacy of dear Mother Angelica.
Oh, I have, absolutely. You know, the fact that she started out with nothing but this dream, and she was so insistent that this is what she's going to do. And Lord, you know, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to help me. Yep. And you know what? I just love that about her. I love the way she relied on Providence. She was just so gutsy, you know, about her reliance on God. She was going to rely on him no matter what, you know. It was almost like she just grit her teeth and said, I'm going to trust him because he's worthy of my trust. And she just was a great lady like that. And I think she's an inspiration for everybody, male or female, about those people who think, oh, I don't think I can do this, and I don't think I can do that. If it's God's will, he will help you to do it. And I look to her so many times when I feel like I'm at a roadblock. I say, look, if she could get over what she got over, I can get over this.
There you go.
And I just think it's so cool what Jack was saying about how she kept the address Irondale, because I always wondered that myself. Why is it Irondale when everybody refers to it as being in Birmingham?
Yes.
And I just figured, well, it's, you know, up here in this big city of Philadelphia, a lot of, you know, we'll refer to that we live in Philadelphia because we're only 20 miles outside of it, and there's all these different towns and cities outside of it that all have their own names. But we generally refer to it as just, oh, I'm from Philly, you know?
Yes.
So I can see how that would really, you know, be a feather in the cap of Irondale, who so appreciates EWTN.
Very true.
They really do. I mean, the mayor has done so much, and just really the whole state has rallied around EWTN and just kind of welcomed them. And you know, when she died in that, they were so prevalent, making statements in that and granting her awards.
Yes.
And now to have Mother Angelica Way, I just think that's beautiful. I wish I could hop on a plane today and come down there, because you guys have a big weekend coming up.
We do, and we're really looking forward to it. As I said at the beginning of the show, the campus is already filled with pilgrims who have come in 1 or 2 days early in preparation for the family celebration that's going to be taking place this weekend at the big BJCC, the Birmingham Jefferson Convention Complex in downtown Birmingham, Alabama, only about a 20-minute drive from our EWTN campus, and only maybe like a 45-minute drive away from the big shrine in Hanceville, Alabama, where Mother Angelica used to live and where her monastery still is, and where the PCPAs live. And it is a beautiful shrine indeed. So please come. It's free. It's free. EWTN.com is a website where you can find out more about the big family celebration that is going on this weekend. EWTN Radio will be bringing you special talks during our live broadcast both Saturday and Sunday, so make sure to tune in to EWTN Radio. And on our website, we have more information about those particular times for your area, EWTN.com. And then EWTN Television is going to be taping the whole family celebration weekend, and we'll be rebroadcasting it, I believe, in a couple of weeks. But stay tuned for the dates and times in your area, EWTN.com. Sue, we are privileged to have listeners chiming in on the very important questions and stories that you have been bringing up during this hour here on Women of Grace. If you want to chime in, the number is 1-800-585-9396 to talk to Sue Brinkman here on Women of Grace. That number again is 1-800-585-9396. 585-9396. And you can also send us your text question. The way you do that is you dial 55000. That's where you're going to be sending your text. And you send the words, or the letters EWTN to 55000. And then you wait for the instructions. And it's very easy. You sign up and you can send your name and question to us. Make sure you tell us what your name is. Sue, we have Bob listening in Altadena, California to EWTN Radio through Sirius XM 130. Bob, what is your question for Sue Brinkman? Go right ahead.
Do you think it's a coincidence that this Catholics for Choice expensive ad campaign occurred just right within a month of the major presidential and other elections that is essentially, like all these presidential elections, going to be decided by Catholics in Ohio and Pennsylvania? And if you could peel off 1 or 2%, that might make the difference right there. And as opposed to just thinking that for the last 3 or 4 decades, there's never been such a thing as Catholics for Choice or any money spent, and it just so happens that that's being done right now.
Oh, Bob, you're absolutely onto it. Can't we see through these people like seeing through a pane of glass? Of course that's what they're doing. They're trying to influence the election. They're trying to get wishy-washy Catholics to say, oh, well, maybe I don't have to look at this organization and they call themselves Catholics. You know, look what they're saying about abortion. I guess I can support a candidate that supports abortion. And, of course, they're doing it. And, you know, some of their biggest funders, the CFC's funders, are Planned Parenthood, who is desperately afraid that they're going to lose funding, their taxpayer funding, because that's been such a big issue in recent years, and it's going to continue to be so during the next president's term. So I'm telling you, it's absolutely why they did it. They're trying to influence the election. They're trying to peel off, as you say, that 1 or 2% who might just be confused a little bit on that issue, and they're going to decide to vote for a pro-abortion candidate in either the general election or in their local elections, because, you know, we got some big local elections, big state elections coming up, and as well as the Senate, the U.S. Senate, and the U.S. House. A lot of elections coming up. November is going to be a very, very pivotal month for this country, and we better be praying now, because you can see these different actors, such as Catholics for Choice, and I hate to even say Catholics for Choice, just, you know, these people for choice is what I should say. They're going to come out there and with all their guns blazing, and they're going to try to win this battle for their side. They're going to try to do it. So we got to be savvy, we got to be smart, and we got to fight back. And we fight back, number one, most importantly, with prayer. In particular, the rosary. That is a weapon. It is a great weapon. Pray it every day from now until the day of the election. Pray a rosary every day and ask the Lord to please guide the future of this country so that we can come back to respect for Him and His laws.
Mm. Bob, if I may ask you a personal question, do you pray the rosary?
I do.
Good.
And I haven't my whole life, really, except for this last year. I made a dedication to pray it once a month, which sounds very tepid, but I thought I could at least do it. But then once I started to do it once a month, now I started to do it more like once a week.
Oh,
and now I really like it. It's actually very interesting that you say that, because I was Catholic my whole life, and I never really liked praying the rosary. I thought it was just kind of nothing, and then I got into it, and then I really like it now.
Well,
Real men listen to women of grace.
You got it, Bob.
I love that. I love his voice, too. You know what? Keep going with it. Keep going with it, Bob, because I'll tell you what. It's a very powerful prayer. I always tell that story about Bishop Dwemi in Nigeria, how Jesus appeared to him and handed him a sword, and when he took the sword, it was a rosary. It turned into a rosary in his hand. And the bishop was praying about the defeat of Boko Haram, the terrorist group over there. And since that time, this was 2 years ago that it happened, since that time, Boko Haram has really been suffering. Their supply routes have been broken up. A lot of their fighters are leaving because they're not getting paid. So, I mean, the rosary is very, very powerful. It's a weapon in the hands of someone with faith. And pray it, Bob. Pray it for this election, because I believe that's what's going to make the difference. I really do.
Mm. Thank you very much, Bob, there for your firm stance and being a true man of God. You're listening to EWTN Radio's Women of Grace here through the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Our phone lines are open for you to chime in with your comments or questions for our guest, Sue Brinkman, staff researcher and journalist here on womenofgrace.com. In a moment, we'll continue to discuss more news stories of the week. We'll take your questions and we'll also take your texts at 55000. Text the letters EWTN at 55000 and then follow the instructions. Again, our number 1-800-585-9396. Stay tuned for more of Women of Grace coming right up.
September 16th, Feast of St. Cyprian of Carthage, Bishop and Martyr. St. Cyprian said, "Petition is ineffectual when it is a barren entreaty that implores God." The Holy Scripture instructs us, saying, prayer is good with fasting and almsgiving. For reflection, what is my most pressing petition to God? What can I do to make it more effective, according to St. Cyprian? Am I willing? Why or why not?
If you'd like to receive a daily Grace Line by email, go to womenofgrace.com and click on the word Grace Line and then check the box Receive Grace Lines. That's womenofgrace.com.
In honor of our beloved foundress, EWTN has now released a second set of programs commemorating her entrance into eternity. In Memoriam, Mother Mary Angelica, a brand new 4-disc treasury that you'll cherish for years to come. Available now from EWTN Religious Catalog. Relive remarkable memories, heartfelt recollections, and laugh-out-loud anecdotes from friends, family, and even Mother herself.
I believe the network was created by God to teach the person in the living room, the person in the pew, how to live in a nitty-gritty, gutsy world.
Memorable moments from an unforgettable life. Make room on your video shelf today for In Memoriam, Mother Mary Angelica. Special live shows and short programs. Available now at EWTNRC.com.
46, almost 47 minutes past the hour here on EWTN Radio's Women of Grace. Elena Rodriguez sitting in for Johnette Bankovic today, who's traveling to EWTN for the big family celebration. If you're just now joining us, let me tell you, the family celebration is going on this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at the BJCC in downtown Birmingham, Alabama. Big family reunion. You will be able to come with your family. There's areas for the kids, for the teens, for the adults, areas for everyone. There is an adoration chapel. There's Holy Mass. There's talks by our EWTN hosts and guests, and it'll be a wonderful weekend. Family celebration, Birmingham, Alabama this weekend. On this very historic day, we're also bringing you coverage about the dedication of the Mother Angelica Way, which is the portion of road right across from EWTN main campus and studios here in Irondale, Alabama, dedicated today with a big celebration and a big sign there saying, "This is Mother Angelica Way." So we are delighted and celebrating the life and legacy of our dear Mother Mary Angelica of the Annunciation. Our guest today, Sue Brinkman, is our staff researcher and journalist at womenofgrace.com. And Sue, we go to Judy, who is listening to EWTN Radio through Living Bread Radio in Cleveland, Ohio. Judy, what is your question for Sue Brinkman? Go right ahead.
Well, it's not really a question. I have talked, I'm very pro-life, and I've talked to a lot of people in our parish that are pro-life and in other parishes in the area. And when talking about the elections and about the candidates, they say, I don't want to vote for the Democratic candidate, but the Republican candidate really scares me. And, I think the two things that they have to think about is, okay, if the Republican candidate gets in, it's only for a term, and that's 4 years, and we can always vote for someone else. But if the Democratic candidate gets in, number one, that candidate is totally against Catholic values, and the Supreme Court already is leaning toward the liberal side, and if that candidate gets in, the Supreme Court is not for one term, it's for life, and it's appointed by the person at the head of the government. And I think that should be even more scarier than, voting for the Republican candidate that only has one term. And I think that should be mentioned because a lot of Catholics are going to vote for the Democratic candidate because of their fear of what the Republican candidate might do.
And Judy, here at EWTN, we can't tell people who we think they should vote, but we can express what is the teaching of the Catholic Church, which is what you are bringing up, being pro-life and defending the pro-life cause. Sue, what is the teaching of the Catholic Church when it comes to deciding an election in this or any country?
That they are never to cast a vote for anyone who will promote the destruction of human life in the womb and also at the end of life. We're not just talking about abortion here. It's there's a lot to this whole life issue. We're also talking about end of life issues, the death penalty. It's big. It's a big issue, and it's the number one issue that we vote on. And what I tell people, because Judy, you are absolutely right. Your whole point is very well made. I tell people, forget about the people this time. It's not about the personalities. It's not about this one or that one. It's all about the Supreme Court. That's what this whole election is, because you're absolutely right. They're going to sit on the bench for their lifetime. You're talking a generation before that court has a chance of changing. Because we could have 2 to 3 justices replaced within the next president's term. And you have to take very, very serious look at that, because they're the ones who are out there changing the laws, casting laws such as same-sex marriage, and Roe v. Wade, for that matter. You've got to be very, very careful who's in there, because they're setting the laws for this country, and they're making determinations that are not going along with the Judeo-Christian value system, and I think we have to be extremely mindful of that. More so, I think, than any other election in my lifetime have I ever seen it so pivotal with the Supreme Court, as far as that's concerned. That's why I tell everybody who says, I don't like this candidate, and I don't like that one either. And I say to them, so what? Who cares? Vote Supreme Court. And when you use that as your barometer, you'll know what to do when you get into the voting booth. That's just the way you have to look at it, Judy. You're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%.
And Judy, we thank you as well for bringing up this point, because we really do have to have it at the top of our list. Thank you for your faithfulness, Judy.
Okay. God bless.
God bless you listening there in Cleveland, Ohio. You can chime in as well. We have just about 4 or 5 minutes left in the show. Still time for you to call in. 1-800-585-9396. That number again is 1-800-585-9396. You can text your questions as well to 55000. Send the letters EWTN to 55000. Gabriel sent us a text and asked us, what is that website where we can get more of Sue Brinkman's special news reports? So, Sue, I'll let you answer that one.
Well, that is womenofgrace.com. Easy to remember. Womenofgrace.com, and we're right on the front page.
So you should
right on the
find
home page, you'll see us under breaking news.
Good going, Gabriel. Well, one of those stories, Sue, that you're bringing up is one that also caught my eye. Victoria's Secret does it again.
Oh, my goodness. They're forever pushing the envelope. They're the promoters of salacious clothing for women. They're number one promoter here in this country, all over the world, I think. They're the number one. And they've introduced this new campaign called the New Undress Code. And what it does is it features, models wearing these bralettes and lacy bodysuits with their pencil skirts and their unbuttoned business jackets. And they're suggesting that women now go to work dressed like this. But the good news about this is that women were not amused by this.
This sounds disrespectful to me as a woman.
It is. Is this what we have to do on our jobs? On their Facebook page, one woman wrote it, and she said, here's how we should rename this collection. How to Get Fired by Victoria's Secret.
Oh, there you go.
And then another woman wrote it, and she said, no thanks, Victoria's Secret. I'll buy, actual clothes when I want to go out in public. This must be a man's idea in your leadership team. another one that was very worrisome to me, teens will think this is okay now.
Mm-hmm. Right. What are we teaching to our younger generations?
Exactly. So, I mean, this is just way off base, and thankfully women are saying, you know what, I think I'll pass on this campaign. Yes. And they have since removed it from their website.
Good. Okay, well, very good. I'm very, very happy that they thought about it and made a correction to that. So, and I'm very grateful to you, Sue Brinkman, for being with us here on Women of Grace. Sue Brinkman continues to show up on Women of Grace almost every week. On Monday, we'll have another very special Women of Grace show. Sue, thanks again. God bless you.
Thank you.
Great having you here, and stay tuned for more of Take Two with Debbie and Jerry coming up right here on EWTN Radio. Don't change that dial.